and happy 300 episodes.
That's crazy.
We finally
300 researched episodes.
That's true.
Welcome to episode 300.
It's still crazy. 300 researched episodes.
We've done book reports like
300 times. Wild. If you had told me that as like a middle schooler, I never would have believed you.
But I actually enjoy doing it.
I love it. I'm obsessed with history and researching.
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for letting us get to episode 300.
Seriously, thank you so much. I had an idea in the shower the other day where I was like, we should, and now I'm ruining it, but we should go from episode 312 to 314.
Oh,
and
just skip the 13th.
It's like the missing episode 313. No one ever, like, we don't talk about it. People are like, where is it? Why can't I find it?
Or if we ever get to episode 666,
we cannot skip episode 666. That is not allowed.
Well, we just need 7 more years and then we'll get there.
That's true. Or we start doing research episodes twice a week because we have the time for that.
No. Happy holidays.
Oh, yeah. And this is our first Christmas tree together.
So we thought this one was appropriate.
It's spooky. It's black, like our souls. And there's lots of little mini Svens on it.
Yes. So cute. Our ode to Sven.
Although they're hanging quite perilously by their necks.
I didn't really think about it when I was hooking them on.
I didn't have to tell everyone. So that's on me. Should we say who we are?
Oh, this is 2 Girls, 1 Ghost.
2 Girls, 1 Ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That is Corinne.
Hello.
And I am Sabrina. And we are the most haunted podcast in America. Officially. It's not a joke anymore.
We didn't give the title to ourselves.
I think we did as a joke.
But like, I think we got enough people messaging us saying that hauntings happened that we were like, oh, I think someone was like, this is like the most haunted podcast
haunted.
I listened to.
Yeah.
I think you're haunted. And so we proudly accept that title. We wear it with honor. Yeah. And 'tis the season for ghost stories because that is one of the OG Christmas traditions. So thank you for being here. We thought we would celebrate the 300th episode by doing a little callback to our early days when we used to split the episodes and each present a haunted story.
Perhaps.
Oh my gosh, a present.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We're going to do this one together.
Yeah, we are. I did text Greg and Dana. Okay, this is weird.
Are you thinking that because I'm wearing their shirt?
No, because I was going to do the Cursed Testament, which you tried to cover.
I stopped.
It doesn't exist online anymore. You like can't find any information about it. You know how they used to have their website and it had like a couple items from their museum? It no longer is on the internet. So I texted them and they never responded to me, but they're busy. That's fine. And maybe we're not supposed to talk about it is the lesson.
Maybe we're not.
It was one thing for me to do Peggy the doll after you could not do it. And I was okay. But I think the Cursed Testament is...
It said no. It shut its door and we're accepting that as a closed book.
For now. I'll probably try again in a couple weeks.
Oh my gosh. Well, weren't you just saying the other day that the tarot deck that...
You mean last night? Yep.
The 72 Demons of Solomon. You were like, oh, I won't use this deck. And then you wanted to use it. And then...
So the occult tarot deck that a listener had told us not to use. And then I bought and ended up doing the episode on the 72 Demons of Solomon. But totally like was just using the deck as a frame of reference and like photo reference for you and for everyone to see. I was like just looking at the deck because I had like a pull cards for myself, my own sake and my own practice. And that deck was sitting there and I was like, well, like, why not? Like, I didn't get any bad vibes from it when I was touching it and using it for research practices or purposes.
And I feel like we approached that episode generally with some respect. We walked away being like, oh, wow, these demons have a lot to offer. It's not just like a blanket, oh my gosh, these entities are bad. Like they had so much going on, so much to offer. They were dynamic.
A dynamic duo, a group.
Yeah.
But then I started shuffling it as if I were to pull the cards and immediately was slapped in the face with, no, do not do this. Do not use these cards. So I did not.
And I guess that's a good lesson for the holidays. It's, when things feel weird.
Where are we going? Good lesson for the holidays.
To yourself.
Good lesson only for the holidays. After the holidays,
only in the month of December.
Don't listen to your gut. Just do things badly.
Do things poorly, but in the month of December,
be good because Santa's watching.
You don't want to be on their naughty list.
You don't want to, unless you do.
Oh, I don't know. We should have like a haunted or not list.
Well, we do have a haunted episode to talk about.
Yes, we do. And we are going to present some of the most haunted stories that we could possibly find.
Should we do like rock, paper, scissors, shoot to see who goes first?
Sure. Best out of 3?
Sure. Okay. Are we going on?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Shoot.
Shoot.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
You go first.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Or I guess you get to decide. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Because what's more cheery than a screaming skull? Yeah, something you might find staked in someone's front yard for Halloween decor, but you wouldn't necessarily expect a screaming skull to just appear anywhere, except for maybe Spirit Halloween.
Which we would love to be sponsored by you next year. Please,
please
add us.
We're sick of buying our own costumes. Just give them to us.
I know we were like, next year we should do like one costume because we did a lot.
It was so fun though.
I know. And we can't go back.
We set a precedent.
I know. We have to go. We have to take it a
Every
step
day,
further.
Every single episode,
Oh
always.
my God.
Who are we? No, we're not doing that.
Honestly, that would be so fun. But
too much commitment.
Spirit Halloween. Let's talk.
Okay, but for right now, I am here to tell you about a screaming skull, a screaming human skull that is giving poltergeist activity and a curse.
It's giving poltergeist activity.
It's giving holiday cheer. It's giving scare the neighborhood kids. It's giving we'll never forgive you. This is the screaming skull of Burton Agnes Hall. It is said to be one of the most haunted items in the world. So let's swim across the pond to our neighbors over in Great Britain.
Okay.
Where the castles are old and apparently the skulls scream. Burton Agnes Hall is a building that was first built in 1601 by Sir Henry Griffith. It's a giant red brick building. I'll show you.
Okay, thanks.
Very pretty.
Oh, beautiful.
It's quite interesting. It kind of reminds me of like in Cake Boss, if you were like, make a cake that is a castle. I feel like that might be what comes out.
I like that that's your frame of reference.
That's what
I'm always
Carlo's
very
Bakery.
Intrigued to know what your references will be because they're never guessable.
Unpredictable.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. They are unpredictable.
Okay, so this is a giant red brick building. It has grand halls, intricate custom woodwork, fine art, and apparently some ghosts. Tucked away in the beautiful little village just outside of Yorkshire, England. This still exists today. But back in the day when it was built, Sir Henry Griffith was building this massive estate for his family. It was a mansion that was going to be a family home.
Okay.
And the only property that had been on the land prior was a Norman manor house, which dated back to 1173 and still stands today.
That's so old.
I know.
1173.
We're over here being like, Massachusetts, so old. Like 1623. Like,
right.
Wow.
Damn.
And it still stands today, which is crazy.
That is.
So Sir Henry Griffith, his wife, and his 3 daughters, they're going to move in. It's under construction. It's being built. They're so excited to move into this like beautiful mega mansion.
Yeah, who wouldn't be stoked?
Yeah, brag about it to your friends. Like, this is great. It's stunning. It's grand. It's a fairy tale life, right? Well, his kids certainly thought so. And his oldest daughter, Catherine Ann Griffith, she went by Anne. And so that's what we will call her. Okay. Anne was especially obsessed with this house. She was so excited, like imagining her and her friends hanging out in the castle. Like, this was going to be the best thing ever.
Stoked. Think about the slumber parties.
So popular.
It's like Princess Diaries. They're going to for sure mattress slide down the stairs.
100%. Like, I would be so stoked too. I would be stoked today if I even got to step foot in this house.
Yeah.
So she was elated to be able to move in one day. And it seemed to be that date was like closer and closer to,
it's almost there.
To happening. Yeah. Like, she was watching this house be built. Her and her family would go visit it all the time. She loved watching it be constructed. She told everyone about her new beautiful home. And basically she had like this countdown, like 17 days until I get to move into my new room. So everyone's excited, Anne especially. One afternoon, Anne, along with her dog, she starts to make her way to St. Quentin's, which was this old 16th century coaching inn that had a restaurant. Mm-hmm. And she was going to go meet some friends there at the restaurant.
How old is she?
I don't know. I think she's a teenager.
Okay.
So reports...
Because she could either be like 11 or like 20 at this point. Like, I can't tell because of the time period.
That's true. I have no idea. Yeah. She was 8 years old. She was going to go grab a beer with her friends. Reports vary. Some say that she was alone. Some say that she was with her 2 younger sisters. But either way, she was making her way to this inn/restaurant when 2 men approached her. Her guard goes up. I think all of us are like,
yeah, instantly. Like,
and these men ask her for money. And she's not wanting to upset these men, right? So she has to like do what she can.
Try to placate them.
Yeah. And she's glancing around for anyone who could help her. And so she grabs her purse and she offers these men a few coins. And while holding out her hand with the coins, the men notice a ring on her finger. And they're like, you have to give us that ring. And the ring was an heirloom on her mom's side. So her mom had given her that ring. And so she was like, in that moment, didn't want to give up her family heirloom, but also like, I'm sure was thinking her mom would be so pissed as well. So she starts to panic. She was like, oh, I'm going to give them whatever I can. But like, this is the one thing that she hesitates on. And she's like, well, it's my mom's ring. So she starts to kind of push back. One of the men said, mother or no mother, we mean to have it, and ripped the ring off of her finger. She's so stunned by this. She screams. And the second that she screams.
No. Oh, no. Oh, no. This is so much sadder than I thought it was going to be.
I know. They escalate their attack. She is left on the ground, beaten very badly and bleeding out.
Poor Anne.
People finally find Anne. She is on the brink of death, and she is rushed into her new home that is still under construction. And she's brought up to one of the upstairs bedrooms in Burton Agnes Hall, this house. But she had been so injured, she lost so much blood that she wasn't able to recover. She kept slipping in and out of consciousness. Her body was racking up a fever. It was becoming dangerously high. She was like trying to fight for her life, but it was just all too much for her. Her body eventually did succumb, and she was released into the afterworld.
I do like that at least she did pass away finally in this house that she so desperately wanted to live in.
Yes.
And be in.
She made it clear that she still wanted to be there in her afterlife, because just hours before she passed, she spoke to her two younger sisters. She said, quote, sisters, never shall I sleep peacefully in my grave in the churchyard unless I, or a part of me at least, remains here in our beautiful home as long as it lasts.
So they chose her skull?
Promise me this, dear sisters, that when I am dead, my head shall be taken from my body and preserved within these walls. Here, let it forever remain, and on no account be removed. And understand and make it known to those who in the future shall become possessors of this house, that if they disobey this, my last injunction, my spirit shall, if so be permitted, make such a disturbance within its walls as to render it uninhabitable for others so long as my head is divorced from its home.
I'm sorry, Anne's dying and these are her final words.
This is her monologue. Leave my head in this house, or I'm going to haunt the shit out of you and everyone else. Kind of an older sister thing to say.
I kind of love her.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a move that I think we might make as well.
100%.
And so, yeah, quite a thing to say on your deathbed. And she is a teenage girl, and her sisters are like exchanging glances like, good Lord, what has come over her?
Yeah.
But like, yes, of course, sister. Of course, sister. We will do this.
Yeah.
Anne, we will do this for you. Don't you worry. So Anne, unfortunately, she passes away. She's given a normal burial. Her head is buried with her body.
Oh, shit. They didn't listen.
That is not what Anne asked for.
No,
they did not listen. She did not want to be buried in the cemetery. She did not want her whole body, at least. She wanted her head in this new home, in that freaking house that she dreamed of.
Although I guess it is a little bit like, it's a lot to ask your sisters and your family to like
sever
your head off of your dead body.
Yeah. But
I don't think I could do that.
No, I would. Yeah, you would be going in the ground.
Yeah. I guess like maybe they didn't have to do the work themselves. They could have hired someone to do that.
I might just deal with the hauntings that come with it too. I'm not sure I could. Yeah, you could hire
If
someone.
it were me, you wouldn't want to deal with my hauntings, Corinne.
But do you think I'd be like, Sabrina?
No, because I'd be scaring.
Stop putting bloody cockroaches all over me as I shower.
I would scare you, and then I would start to target people around you, and that would piss you off. Yeah, see?
What if I put your head on a stake on the outside of my... Nope.
That's worse for you. And that's worse for you.
I don't know what I would do.
Well, I don't even know where I want my head to be. So,
okay.
Area 51.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's not going to be in my house. So.
No, I don't want it at your house. I'm sorry, Corinne.
In my mind, I was like, oh God, I have to live with it because this is what these people were living with.
What if I'm like, you have to sleep next to my severed, decapitated, dead head for the rest of your life?
Some people do that.
Mary Shelley kept her husband's heart
in butcher
wrapped
paper
in her desk drawer.
Not great. Okay, so not going to be great for this family either, because Anne was like, I'm going to get what I want. And just because I'm dead does not mean that you can disobey my ask, dear sisters. Nobody would stop Anne, that's for sure. And a week after her funeral, it became clear that Anne had no intention of resting in peace. Her family was now in Burton Agnes Hall. They'd moved in. They're getting ready to tuck in for the night when a loud crash came from upstairs. The two younger sisters and the servants run upstairs, and they find this large piece of furniture laying on its side. Weird. New house. Maybe they moved it incorrectly. Whatever.
Furniture flips on its side by itself sometimes.
It doesn't matter if it's 200 pounds. Sometimes it just, wants to rotate. A week later, loud knocking echoed through the entire estate and continued for hours. 1 more week passes, and then the family hears what sounds like a group of people running up and down the stairs and groaning, and the groan sounds like someone's dying groans.
Oh.
And so they're like, is this the ghost of Anne, or is this something more sinister? And the servants started to speak of a ghost witch that was haunting the mansion. And soon, servant after servant began to quit in quick succession. They were really scared. Nobody wanted to work in this haunted mansion.
The groaning witch.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, the ghost witch, the groaning ghost witch.
Yeah. It's like Moaning Myrtle.
Totally.
Yeah.
This was Anne. She was like, I will make this miserable for everybody.
Right. And also, if you're the family and all of your help and workers are quitting, that's a nuisance.
And you have like a giant mansion. Like this thing is huge. I don't know how big it is. 17,000 square feet. That's what it looks like.
It's big.
So seeking help, the family went to their neighbor who was the vicar of the parish. And in speaking with him, they realized that all of this activity started happening exactly 1 week to the day that Anne had passed away.
Yep.
And so now some reports say that it's just poltergeist-like activity, but other reports state that Anne's bloody apparition actually materialized and would wander the halls, terrorizing anyone who came across her. So it was just like becoming worse and worse and worse and worse. Yeah, Anne's pretty cool. So now together, the sisters with the vicar decided to open Anne's coffin to try to appease her spirit. So they're like, let's go to the coffin. We'll open it up. We'll apologize to her. We'll promise Anne that we're going to make things right. And so with some reluctance, the sisters go but they didn't want to dig up their dead sister and look at her body. But at the time, it seemed like maybe this was the only good idea.
Right.
So the fresh dirt was once again dug up from the ground, her casket uncovered. And upon opening the coffin, the group stood there frozen, terrified by what they were seeing.
Well, what were they seeing?
There lay Anne, her head decomposing rapidly, the rest of her body from the neck down perfectly intact, preserved.
So Anne was like trying to make it easier for them to take the head off.
Yep, her little rotting skull. And a grin frozen across her skull's face.
Stop. Although I kind of feel like all skeletons kind of look like they're smiling.
Yeah, especially because like
there's no
skin,
lips.
Eats away. So, yeah,
and your jaw naturally does go up.
So Anne was clearly sending a message. She needed her head to be in Burton Agnes Hall. So the family decided to bring her home. They removed her head from the rest of her body, leaving her body in the cemetery, but taking her skull with them and placing it on the table so that Anne's rotting head could look out and observe the beautiful home and all of the ongoings within the estate.
It's a centerpiece.
It is. Gross, disturbing, beautiful. I don't know.
They're one of us.
Imagine the holidays. You got like your turkey, your
it's literally
Christmas ham.
Right below the Christmas tree is Anne's head.
Yeah. And you're like, look, Anne, look what I got for Christmas. Creepy.
I guess that's one way to like keep her involved.
Right. I mean, she was getting what she wanted.
Right.
And more. I think originally she requested, she was like, just like put me somewhere, like bring me up somewhere. And they're like, we're going to put you right
take it one step
center.
Further because we're sorry.
Yeah, we have to appease you now.
Yeah.
So whatever your thoughts on
Anne's head being
there, the centerpiece, this activity within the home stopped immediately. So boom, done.
It worked.
They fixed all of the paranormal activity. No more hauntings in the middle of the night. Anne was at peace. But she was not at rest because the wish that she made her sisters promise was for eternity, not just when her family lived there. And so her spirit waited there and waited until someone tried to remove her from the home. A maid had tossed her skull out of a carriage and onto a load of manure.
Okay, well, that's rude.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Well, also this maid like didn't believe in any of the ghost stories. She was like, that's ridiculous. And there's like a rotting head in this house. I'm going to remove it.
Throwing it onto a bunch of manure.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was intentional or if she was just like riding the carriage and tossed it out and just happened to land in some cow poop. It did. Anne's skull hit the poop and the horses stopped immediately.
A sentence I think I've never thought I would hear. And her skull hits the poop. Out of context. What the hell I've used to.
Anne's skull hits the poop.
Yeah.
The horses stop immediately. They're freaking out. They're refusing to budge from this spot. Yes. And so they eventually return to Burton Agnes Hall. All the activities happening. They have to go get the skull again and bring it back.
Did this woman have to go dig it up out of the poop?
I think so.
Yeah.
So while the return of Anne's skull was rather quick in this case, there were other times throughout the next several years and decades that people tried to remove Anne's skull. Each time Burton Agnes Hall would erupt in paranormal activity. The banging, the knocking, all of that would return. The sound of someone moaning on their deathbed, furniture being flipped, the walls would shake, the paintings would be torn from their spots on the walls, which was actually spooky too because there's literally a painting. I think it's over the fireplace mantle, maybe on the first floor, that literally represents the Empire of Death. And like this would rattle and like come off of the wall.
That's really creepy, but also very cool.
So each time the activity continued and worsened until Anne's skull was returned to the home. One family was so disturbed by the skull. And also, again, like this is, years and years pass by, like it gets passed down, more people purchase the home.
Sure.
And they become more disconnected, more removed from Anne's life and these stories and don't really believe it. So this family, they're like, this is really freaking creepy. We don't really believe in this curse or the ghost
imagining
stories.
like they move in and the only thing in the entire house is like Anne's skull in the center of like the living room.
But this family, they're like, we've heard the stories. We're going to try to appease Anne's spirit. We don't believe in this. So they just decide to bury Anne's skull on the grounds of the property.
Which you would think is fair.
But she's asked to be in the
house. Why not like put her into like the wall?
She does become in the wall.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So they thought that this would appease her spirit, but the paranormal activity continued. So they were wrong. Anne was not interested in the property grounds. She needed to be inside the home, and the family was quickly reminded of that. Anne was dug up once more, returned to the house. Eventually, people decided to make sure Anne was a permanent feature in the home, and they bricked her skull up into one of the walls.
That's literally what I was picturing, and I like picture like her skull like being visible in the brick.
That would be so cool. It's hidden away. Like you don't know where it is in the house.
Okay.
So she can't, I guess, like see.
Yeah.
But she remains safe because no one knows exactly where her skull is now. And so no one can remove her.
Yeah.
So the exact location has not been revealed, perhaps to protect Anne from being removed from the home or to protect those who take care of the building from suffering Anne's rage should they suddenly feel that they should remove her.
Right.
But it is said that Anne's spirit, which is sometimes referred to as Old Nance, still makes an appearance. Every year on the anniversary of her death, she materializes and looks in splendor at the home she so adores.
It's still her house.
And that's the screaming skull of Burton Agnes Hall.
Oh, that's actually not as scary as I thought it was going to be.
No. It's just like one of the most haunted because
she's so active.
So active and is still like annually, hello.
It's also so interesting to me because clearly her skull doesn't need to be in the mansion for her to haunt the mansion. Like she was haunting the family when her head was buried with her body, but she's just like, I really want and it was her wish.
She has a lot of pride.
She wanted her skull, her head to remain in the building.
Her life was also taken so young and so unfairly and in such a gruesome way that it's like, this is the one thing that she's holding on to. This is the one thing she
so much for her to ask for.
And she's also a teenager. Like things are, still raging hormonally in the afterlife, I'm sure. Everything's pulsating.
Sure.
Her hormones.
Yeah.
Her rage. Clearly.
The furniture.
Yes. I just like picture her as like morphing into this like green monster. It's just like myself in middle school when I had no control over anything and it would take like 2 seconds for me to go from 0 to 100.
Yeah. I like that you have the green light on you right now when you said turning into the green monster. I feel like that was very applicable, appropriate.
Channeling green.
Wow, I like that. Anne.
How lovely, Anne.
Well, mine's scary.
I knew it would be.
Did you?
Yeah, I could have guessed it.
Our theme was most haunted, so I went in the
scariest haunted object, yeah.
Yeah. I have my lovely Andy here with us today because we will be discussing a haunted doll. We've heard of Annabelle. We've heard of Peggy. We've heard of Robert.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're going to talk about Letta. Letta.
I've heard murmurings of Letta, but I've never looked up what Letta has to bring us.
Letta has a lot to share. This is their creepy cousin, all the other creepy doll cousin, Letta, or Letta Me Out, or
Letta Me Out.
Yes.
Letta Me Out.
And that's literally how they came up with the name.
Really?
Yeah, someone was basically, well, I'll get to that point, but I like to also call this doll LMO if you do not want to say the full name.
Like Elmo.
And thank you, because I'm going to end this episode with a haunted Elmo.
No way.
Yeah.
And I was going to talk about Robert the doll.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so Letta's exact beginnings are pretty unclear, but as with many haunted objects, the story that we'll tell begins with the discovery. And Letta was discovered and unearthed in the 1970s. There is this man named Kerry Walton who grew up in Australia. He is a bit of like a explorer in the sense that he would go into like abandoned buildings. He had a vintage shop that he would sell items that he found in like abandoned buildings and stuff. So he liked to explore haunted-esque old places.
Right.
He grew up in this small town called Wagga Wagga or Wagga Wagga.
I like that.
New South Wales. And similar to like a lot of towns, he grew up with this urban legend of this house. And it was an abandoned house that sat in the neighborhood in this small town.
Classic.
And there was this urban legend of an old man who would like carry sacks of bodies and children.
Yikes.
Yes.
Kind of reverse Santa Claus.
Yeah. Yep. If you're naughty, the old man in Wagga Wagga is going to get you. Specifically, not just human bodies, human heads.
A big skull episode.
Yeah.
Cadaver city over
dismembered
here.
heads. Obviously, people were terrified of this home. And so there was all these like dares, like, will you go to it? People avoided it, yada, yada, yada. One day in the 1970s, Carrie Walton and his brother, I think they're now in their 20s or 30s, unclear. They decide, why don't we go into that house and see if we can find anything, any treasures that we could sell in our store or just come upon. So they sneak in. I like to imagine they were like trying to scare one another in the process.
And this man doesn't live, it's like completely abandoned, right?
It's completely abandoned. And Carrie now lives in Brisbane at this point in the time, in 1970s. Things take a turn when Carrie stumbles upon something strange beneath a broken floorboard of this abandoned house. So I imagine it's kind of dark and he's walking and he sees like a crack in the floorboard and he sees an eyeball staring back at him. And he's terrified because he thinks like, is there a child or is there someone buried beneath this floorboard?
Oh my God, yeah.
So out of fear, he calls his brother over and they pull back this floorboard and it is not a child and it is not a real human, but there is a doll with a wicked grin, a large nose, crooked eyebrows. And is that human hair?
No, ew. This hair better not grow on its own.
This is what they see beneath the floorboard.
Sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to say ew. Okay. It's giving ventriloquist.
It is. It is. And I think when they discovered the doll, it was nude because the clothing had disintegrated.
Okay.
Whatever clothing this doll was in, which to them signified that it had been there for a long time.
This actually kind of looks like one of the dolls in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood in the
Interesting
world of make-believe.
I don't remember it, but it kind of also reminds me of when I was in elementary school. We did a like class project where we did like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but we did it as a puppet show and we all were assigned a character and we made paper mache puppets of the characters.
Oh, really?
With like, where you blew up the balloon and then paper mache'd around and created the characters. It kind of looked like
because they were kind of, they weren't done well, obviously.
And like the texture's a little bit off. So probably blinded from the relief that this is not a real child and only a doll. Carrie was like, I should save this doll. That's his first thought. Not, this is scary. Why is there a doll buried beneath the floor? They're like, phew, it's not a real human. I want to save this. Also, this is kind of his job. He goes around and he takes things.
Yeah.
And he also had this feeling that the doll wanted to be rescued.
Interesting.
So with no pushback, Carrie's brother agreed. Yes, let's take this doll back home to Brisbane with us.
It's like they're all under a little trance. Like the doll is making them be like, take me. Yeah. Bring me home.
So the two carefully wrap the doll. They put it into a sack and they put it in the backseat of the car and they drive back to Brisbane. The entire drive back, they keep getting this like weird feeling and keep looking in their peripheral vision and keep thinking that they see this sack the doll is in moving.
Ooh.
Which is why Carrie's brother makes a joke. He basically mimics what he thinks the doll is saying when it's like moving in the sack, saying, let me out, let me out, let me out. And they start laughing and they're like, the doll's name is Letta.
Yeah.
Therefore coining the name Letta Me Out, a playful name given to it. And they arrive home with the doll. And as you can guess, some pretty strange things start to happen almost immediately. Their first red flag, after the first red flag of the doll clearly trying to escape this sack, is that the family dogs kept barking at the doll and growling and whining and refusing to be near it at all. Letta was also moving on its own. And every night they would hear the sounds of like something moving throughout the house. And they were like, it's like probably nothing. It wasn't enough for them to wake up and feel like someone was in the house, but they just kept hearing sounds.
This is reminding me of the beginnings of Chrono Catskills.
It is very similar. And similarly, like kind of a misunderstood haunted object. And in the mornings when they would wake up, they would find strange scuff marks on the floors. And then when they would look at the doll, they would see scuff marks on the feet of the doll that were not there the day prior. Meaning this doll is like
freaking God,
scuff marking around through the house at night.
Dragging their little doll feet.
Yes. They tried to write it off, but it kept happening night after night. And other people also started feeling ill around Letta to the point of feeling faint, passing out, or throwing up. So all these hauntings are getting worse and worse and more intense. But at the same time, Carrie doesn't feel like bad vibes from the doll at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's like this weird connection that they share. But they do want to understand what's happening. So they sought out experts. And I think also around this time, as they're seeking out experts and learning more about the doll, they're also sharing the stories of these hauntings. And so the story of Letta is becoming popularized. And
more energy going to Letta.
But it's traveling around. And Carrie Walton talks a lot about how, like, prior to this, he wasn't really that well off. Like, he kind of like had his own business, but he lived like a simple life.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, like, people were offering him money for this doll, and like a lot of money. And they went to a psychic who said the doll was actually inhabited by the spirit of a young boy who died a long time ago. She had the sense that this little boy had drowned, and then the family of this little boy had made the doll in the likeness of the little boy, although it looks like an old man.
It does.
So I'm not quite clear on that, but it was basically like an homage to a lost loved one.
Okay.
Another expert was able to date the doll some 200 years back based on the nails that were used in the doll's feet.
Mm-hmm.
And they were also able to find similar dolls that had been crafted in Eastern Europe, specifically in Romania. I was trying to look up research of like Romanian dolls in history, and I couldn't find anything. I don't know.
It's so, I mean, I'm like biting my tongue because I don't know what I'm allowed to say about the doll yet. Yeah, I should keep my observations and my thoughts to myself as to not haunt myself.
I don't think you will. You will.
Okay.
This is not a type of doll. It's not like Peggy where people who talk about it.
Yeah, we're not supposed to. Or like Robert where you like can't.
Yeah. So you're safe to make observations if you would like.
Okay.
Would you like to? Or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll keep it to myself for right now.
So this doll is handcrafted. It's wood with large brown eyes and brown hair. It has elaborately arched eyebrows, a pronounced nose, and a mouth that appears to be smirking. But Carrie reports that the mouth and his like facial expressions seem to change often.
Ew.
Yeah.
That is so, I mean, I say ew because I'm scared of it, but also this is the coolest freaking thing in the world. That this doll is so clearly haunted.
And active.
Scuff marks, walking around, changing its face. Like you can see it.
Yes. He is dressed in a dark green suit, knee-length breeches, and a white shirt with frills at the neck and wrists. The shoes are part of the carving, so they're not like an accessory put onto him, and they're painted brown and black and have square toes and a slight heel. The attire, like I said, is not original. It's something that was put onto the doll later, and original attire likely disintegrated to aging. Mm-hmm. But the painted shoes are original and likely indicative of the original attire. This doll has often been called by a Romanian slur, which I will not say. And as we learned from Jasmina, the people who call themselves that are probably practicing it. And it's a Romani term. So we're not going to refer to it as that because that's not our place. The doll seems to have Romani spiritual connections. And guess what? That hair that looked oh so human hair.
Human hair.
Which
tell me it didn't belong to the little boy.
That's what I'm curious about. I don't know if they've done any tests, but I would also be curious because the psychic told them this story, but could they do like some type of like DNA testing, or what's the testing that they do where they find like chemicals that are in the hair that help date back or locate where it's from? Do you remember that type of study? There was that whole case, in Bear Brook case, where in the barrels, they did that testing to try to locate where the victims were from originally, because like all that was left was the hair.
I have no idea.
Anyway, while this doll is somewhat unsettling and the fact that people do get like bad vibes or feel sick around it, Carrie does not believe that the spirit is malevolent and actually believes that it's a deceased child that when treated well and once well acquainted, the spirit and the doll will warm up to you and perhaps even bring luck to you. Because, like I said, Carrie, prior to finding Letta, was just living a normal, mundane life. And then truly instantly upon possessing and owning Letta. Even though like people were offering him tons of money for Letta, he was like, I can't sell this doll. And instead he started making money elsewhere. Like people were buying other items that he had, and he started to make more money.
Yeah, Letta could be a bit of a good luck charm.
Yeah, he was able to
Letta live with you, and Letta
brings you money, fortune, luck. And Carrie and his family are cautious of how many strangers they do bring into Letta's life, because they're like, the same with like Greg and Dana, where if it's something that's perhaps misunderstood or haunted and doesn't like a bunch of people around it, like it's a little boy who's probably scared of strangers and confused. So they're cautious about that, and they treat him really well. He's very much like a part of their family. And there are some who, when they do meet Letta, can become overcome by sadness or immense grief. Some do feel nauseous and uneasy.
How interesting that it can be so different for different people.
I know. And then Amy from Amy's Crypt met Letta and had like a positive experience. People have seen Letta's facial expression change, the eye colors change, the doll moving on its own, and have experienced poltergeist activity when near the doll. Ultimately, people believe Letta does not like being made a spectacle of and does not like certain people, which I kind of respect.
Yeah.
It's like a pet.
It does make me wonder like what's going on with those certain people that either triggers Letta in a way, or is Letta almost like this sort of looking glass where you see something. It's almost like the scrying mirror that Greg and Dana have, where it's like you see something
within yourself.
And sometimes people are fearful of it, or sometimes people are comforted by it.
Or also like, if you know you're going to see a haunted object, are you then pre-programming your brain to think something scary is going to happen? True. And then you do experience it.
Yeah.
But today, Carrie Walton's granddaughter, Haley, runs Letta's social media accounts, and you can follow Letta to learn more and follow along on Letta's journey. But here is a photo of Letta and Carrie Walton. It's like been so many years.
Wow.
They're just buddies.
For some reason, I mean, I know that photo, like Letta is a doll, but for some reason, upon quick glance, kind of does look almost alive in a way.
Totally. Like if you just like walked past that, you would think that it's two people sitting on a couch. It is such a relief to learn that LMO, Letta, was not an evil spirit and not intending harm. But like we teased earlier, LMO is not terrifying, but there is an Elmo that is terrifying, and it has death on its mind.
What in the world?
I think a lot of people have probably heard this story. This is the story of a Elmo doll that began to chant, "Kill James, kill James," over and over.
I thought that was some sort of like Reddit lore.
No, it's literally, there's a video. I'll show it to you. Most of us have very fond memories of Elmo and of our birthdays and the gifts that we received for our birthdays. But for poor James Bowman, he will forever remember his second birthday for the toy that wanted to kill him. And we're going to play this little clip.
Knows Your Name doll recently ran out of batteries. His mother, Melissa, put new ones in.
Kill James?
What was that?
Kill James?
And so James' mom, Melissa, she gave James this Elmo doll because it was like a new Elmo doll called Elmo Knows Your Name. And it's like programmed by the computer where you can like type in the name.
Yeah.
And Elmo would say like, "Hello, James," or like talk to the name that you put in. So she gives him this brand new Know Your Name Elmo, and then hears her son, her 2-year-old son, saying these words, "Kill James." And she's like, "Excuse me, son, what did you just say?" And then she finds him with his Elmo doll, and the Elmo doll is repeating over and over, "Kill James."
Oh my God. And it's like if it were running out of battery or some weird battery thing, like you would think the word James would be distorted too. Like if you were thinking hello, like the kill is just.
Right. But it clearly sounds like "Kill James" over and over. They threw the toy away, but apparently this model of Elmo Knows Your Name had quite a few issues.
A mass-produced haunted Elmo.
Who wants to kill?
Wow. Something's within the Elmos. It says, "Letta Me Out."
Kill James.
So creepy. I don't know what to think of Letta. I'm like waffling because I guess what you think of Letta depends on what Letta thinks of you.
Very true.
Okay.
Listener stories.
Interesting, the doll direction, because like I mentioned earlier, I picked out a listener story that has to do with one of the most haunted dolls to exist.
Dun, dun, dun. Robert.
This is called "Oh, Robert, Dearest."
Uh-oh.
Oh, hello, my fellow ghostesses. My name is Amber, she, her, and I've been a listener since the very beginning. We go way back, even it's just been one-sided relationship until now.
Hey, Amber.
We go so far back. You guys are like a big old comforter to me, keeping my anxiety at bay by the sounds of your friendly chatter. Anyways, I have this little story that I wanted to share with you that involves a famous haunted doll. Yes, Robert the doll. This may be a long one, but I'm not apologizing for the length because we're all here to listen to scary stories. And in my opinion, the longer the better. So,
that's what we've been saying.
Yeah, exactly. You never apologize for the length. Here's the thing.
That's
you don't ever have to. But also, you never have to apologize for the length of your email because we read every single length and we like
them all.
Yeah, we like
Short,
them all.
Long.
Keeping these things to myself.
I was trying to set you up for something dirty, but Corinne's a mother now.
Keeping it PG tonight. Maybe episode 301. Things will change.
What's happening in 301?
I don't know.
Is it getting phallic?
It's your episode.
Oh, yeah. It might get phallic.
Exactly.
If you know me.
BDE.
Big dick energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I did say you big booty energy the other day.
Yes. But today, big dick energy.
BDE.
Yeah.
It all began on a chilly Saturday night around 7 or 8 years ago. My kids were at their dad's that week, and so I was home alone. While I was getting ready to go out that night, I had a podcast about the paranormal. The story was about Robert the doll, and although the podcasters warned that he had a tendency to haunt those who were curious to search him up online, my curiosity got the best of me, and I just had to take a peek.
I get it, Amber. I get it.
Mm-hmm. After finding him and thinking, okay, so he looks like a really old doll, but not really that terrifying, I quickly closed the site that I was on and I walked out into the kitchen. For some reason, I had almost all of the lights off except for the light above my stove, so it was quite dark. I leaned onto my kitchen counter while I texted my friend, who I was meeting that night. My fur baby Vito jumped onto the counter beside me and was peering over my shoulder towards the pitch black dark hall behind me.
I really, for some reason, when you read fur baby, I thought Furby.
My Furby walked
Amber
over.
still has the Furby and it's her pet and it's moving around.
Well, she had to feed the Furby dinner before going out.
Exactly. She's worried about Robert the doll, but she has a living Furby.
That's
that needs
the real
to eat.
nightmare.
Yeah.
My fur baby Vito jumped onto the counter beside me and was peering over my shoulder towards the pitch black hall behind me. At first, I didn't pay much attention to him, but he kept looking around my shoulder and then hiding back behind me. I looked towards the hall, I looked back at him, and then I looked back down the hall again, and nothing. I couldn't see anything, but I started to get a really creepy feeling, and I decided the fucking lights needed to be on. Why am I standing in the dark anyway?
Good question.
I left shortly after that and forgot about the whole thing by the time that I got home late that night. So I got ready for bed, I turned out the light, and now I'm not sure how long I was asleep, but I woke up to a loud bang that came from outside of my room. And it couldn't have been a dream because my beagle boy Joe, who was fast asleep at the end of my bed, had too just woken up just as abruptly as me. His ears were perked up, he was staring out of my bedroom door. The thought of Robert entered my mind and I recalled how strange my cat was acting earlier that night. Nope, no thank you, this is not happening. I turned my light on and eventually I fell back asleep. To my dismay, sleep only brought more terrors. I woke up in my dream, still in my bed. I started to look around the room and I saw the head of Robert the doll coming out of my walls. Not just one, but multiple.
Multiple heads.
All over the wall.
Stop.
They would come out, they would recede back in over and over. I would startle awake, like for real now, and I was just completely freaked out. I then decided my light and my TV both needed to be on. Yep. I could not fall asleep for a really long time, but eventually I did succumb to my exhaustion. Jeez. And I had another dream. But this time I was walking through my house and the whole time I had this eerie feeling and a deep knowing that my house was haunted. It was such a real feeling. I could feel it in my core. I turned the corner into the kitchen and all of the paintings on the wall had been turned upside down.
Oh.
I remember thinking of Robert again, and in that moment, I heard a scream from outside. It was my son screaming and crying, "My neck! My neck!" So I rushed outside to help him, and at that moment, I woke up. It was morning.
Holy shit.
Finally. I had a really bad feeling. My kids were at their dad's that week, and I couldn't quickly go check on them just to make sure that they were fine. But this nagging feeling just wouldn't go away. So I texted my ex to see if the kids were okay. I said, "Morning, how are the kids doing? Did they sleep okay?" And I shit you not, my ex replies, "Well, Miller, my son, is staying home today. He woke up with a really bad headache." Say what? My mouth fell open and I stared at his text for a while. My heart was pounding out of my chest. Did I unknowingly open my children up to being haunted by Robert? Or is this some kind of crazy coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences though, so I'm leaning towards the former.
Me neither, Amber.
I have since then seen many photos of Robert and have not had another experience like that again. Oh, and my son is okay. Thanks so much for being the amazing spooky bitches that you are, and I hope that I see you live one day. Until then, I will be here listening, Amber.
I also don't believe in coincidences. I am glad that it was not like, I wonder if something happened like that Miller hurt his neck in his sleep, which caused the headache.
Mm-hmm.
Because, ow, my neck. Robert the doll gave your son a headache.
Yeah, what if she was seeing something that kind of was happening? Or it's also one of those things where it's like, what if in the dream state, he was injured like astrally, and then we feel that in our own bodies too. Sometimes what happens to us.
I believe that.
When we're into our soul.
Either way, I am glad nothing else happened.
Yeah, me too. But my God. See, dolls are not to be messed with.
And neither are Ouija boards. This is from our listener, Michael, and it is called Ouija Board Encounters. Hi, Corinne and Sabrina. My name is Michael, and I love to listen to all the paranormal stories from your podcast while working. It makes the 10-hour shift fly by, getting lost in all those ghost stories, especially the researched episodes. But let's get into the experience I had with a Ouija board when I was 16 and lived in a small town in Nevada. It starts like most days, hanging as a teen with friends. We'd go hang out by a nearby lake, go swimming or skateboarding near our houses. There wasn't much to do in our small town. But the day was getting late, and me and my 2 other friends, let's call them Jake and Joe for anonymity, we decided to go back to Jake's house to hang and smoke. We had nothing better to do. So I came up with the great idea. Let's make a homemade Ouija board and use one of his parents' shot glasses as the planchette to pass the time.
Sounds kind of fun. Sounds like something I might have done when I was younger.
It sounds like something I would have been terrified of when I was younger. It's so interesting how we
flip-flop.
We're so different growing up, and we found each other.
And now you're more likely to use a Ouija board now than I am.
So there we are in his parents' house, who were not home. We sat up in the living room and started making the board. Then we started asking it questions and calling on the spirits. At first, we were getting no responses from the board, but then we called out to one of our friends who had sadly died by suicide. We started asking questions like, do you miss your family? And we asked other things that are hard to recall, but we got simple answers like yes and no's for the most part. But then after contacting him, we started to try to speak to other spirits once again. And to our surprise, they came through. And to our discouragement, they were kids. They talked about really dark things that happened to them and told us their ages, which really touched my feelings hearing all these things from supposed kids.
Yeah.
But that was not the end of the night. We wanted to see if there was anything we could do with the Ouija board that was actually factual, so we researched other rituals to call out to spirits. We were looking for about 30 minutes when I came across this one thing that seemed pretty simple to do. It called for us to find a dark room with no light, and it needed at least 3 people to do, and there were 3 of us. It said to stand one in front of each other in a line in front of a light switch, then light a candle behind the last person. Once you did that, you could not open your eyes, you could not laugh or make any noise, or else it would take you.
Take you where?
I don't know. And then you would call upon this demon to join you and sit in the darkness with you until you hear them or feel them touch you. But all you can do is sit there until the person in the front decides to turn on the light and blow out the candle.
Hell no. Hell no. This does remind me of Talk to Me.
It does.
It's just like this, there's like an excitement in experiencing something so incredibly terrifying, and you don't want to do it, but there's a little part of you that's like,
I'm curious.
A little bit curious, yeah.
So we decided the best place to do this is the back of Jake's basement. Once all the doors were closed, there was no light. So we gathered the candle, got in a line, and sat crisscross applesauce on the floor in front of the light switch. We lit the candle, turned out the lights, closed our eyes, and invited the demon to come sit with us. We sat there in silence and in the dark for about a minute. In my mind, I was thinking, this is such a bunch of BS. And then we heard things moving around us. Things on the desks and shelves around us shuffled and moved. Then something touched me. I felt claws run down my legs, then down my spine. Meanwhile, I'm crying on the inside, trying not to make any noise or any expression from it. It felt like I was sitting there for an hour, but was really more like 4 minutes before Jake in front of us turned the light on. After that terrifying experience, we decided let's stop mingling with the supernatural and retreat upstairs and blow out the candle.
Yeah, good call.
We then decided to make some food after, and we started to hear some noises coming from downstairs. So we went to go see what was going on. We slowly walked down the stairs, peeking between the opening between the side of the stairs and the roof. We all get a good glimpse, and we see the bathroom door slowly swinging open. I tell you, the three of us crawled over each other, fighting to be the first up the stairs and out the door. It was like deer running for their lives. We all piled into my car and booked it out of there. We decided to go park by the lake down the road. And once we were there, we sat and compiled our thoughts and all talked about what happened, getting on the same page. It took us about an hour or two to calm our nerves. Eventually, we gathered up the courage to drive back to the house and call it a night, and no further experiences happened that night. But fast forward to the next day, I'm home, and I had a room in the back end of the basement that was right across from my sister's room. I'm the only one home. And I decided to take a shower, gather my clothes. I hop in the shower, and I start washing my body, and I hear a whistle. I try to rationalize it and think it's probably my sister, even though I never heard the door close, and I don't think anyone else was home. It was a constant whistle, and it kept getting closer and closer to the bathroom door. I heard it reverberate throughout the bathroom. I kept telling myself it's just my sister, but somehow it was echoing, and I started to hear things in the bathroom. I started washing my hair, and the whistle was now in my left ear. It was so close you could feel it in the air. I jumped so high and scrambled to get the soap out of my hair and out of my eyes. I jumped out of the shower and wrapped the towel around my waist, ran around the house searching to see if anyone was home. And I realize now that was stupid. I probably shouldn't have done any of those things and just left the house. But I told my parents and decided that I should have left the house. But more so, I never should have done any of that paranormal stuff. I never told my parents, and I decided to see if it would just go away on its own. But it didn't. And after that, I started experiencing things being misplaced or disappearing. And slowly it stopped. That is the one experience that has always stuck with me. I have more, but y'all are the best. From Michael.
Wow. Okay. This is like beyond just when we're like, don't play with Ouija boards. This feels like a paranormal game mixed with a Ouija board.
Which is my favorite type of story to share. So this was everything. Yeah. Ouija boards, haunted dolls, haunted objects, and terrifying paranormal games that you should never play.
Yeah, no, because clearly it follows you. And it doesn't matter if the game is over and the board is closed out. Sometimes things stay.
Also, if you're like fully summoning a demon and like asking for an experience like that, you kind of got what you wanted.
Yeah, so congratulations.
You're welcome, Michael. You're welcome. You did it. You win. Michael's a lucky winner. Ding, 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 ding. Demons following you for the rest of your life.
Well, thank you guys for being a part of episode 300, sending in your emails, supporting us. We love you.
For all these years. We love you so very much. And we'll see you next week for something not quite phallic, but something that makes me think of phallic things because I love them.
Probing.
Aliens.
Yeah.
We love you.
Send us your emails to twogirlsoneghost@gmail.com. You can rate and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen. Tell other people also to listen. You're a gift to us.
Yes. And thank you to our editor, Jamie Ryan, for putting together the show and making us sound so much cooler. We love you all.
And we will see you on the other side.